We're picking up right where we left off last week with 1 Samuel 21, the transitioning of the kingdom from Saul to David. Let's get into it. 1 Samuel 21. Now, to recap, to give some context, David and Jonathan found out Saul is plotting to kill David, right? So David cannot be seen around King Saul anymore, right? David and Jonathan had their tearful goodbyes, and David is now departing, fleeing from the kingdom of Saul. All right. So 1 Samuel 21 and verse 1. Then came David to Nob, to Ahimelech the priest. I don't know if Nob is going to be in the maps that we use. Let's pull up the maps, though. You know I like the maps if you've been watching this series. Let's pull up the maps. This is one of them. This is probably the best one that we use with the most cities, I should say. Let's see, Nob. I don't see Nob anywhere, unfortunately. Even though there's a lot of cities on here, still don't have Nob. He's fleeing from around the Ramah area in Benjamin. So it could literally be in any direction. Because this is the center of Israel, essentially. Let's see if we get any more clues to it. Because I'm not seeing Nob on the map. So let's go back to Ahimelech the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David, and said unto him, Why art thou alone, and no man with thee? And David said to Ahimelech the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee. And what I have commanded thee, and I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Right? So, David knows that if he tells the truth to Ahimelech here, he's probably going to turn him over to the king. So he had to lie in this situation. Now, therefore, what is under thy hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or what there is present. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread under my hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. Right, because sexual acts make you unclean. And David answered the priest and said unto him, Of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days, since I came out. And the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common, yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. Right, so he said it's not fully sanctified, right? So it's not technically unlawful for you to eat this, because there was, once the showbread for the priest was sanctified, normal people could not eat it, right? So he said it's in a manner common. It's almost been sanctified, though. And I do want to reiterate on the thing I said about women making you unclean, right? Or sexual acts, rather. You're unclean until you bathe yourself, and then you'll be clean. But those were sanctification rituals and things like that when it comes to Levitical priesthood. The same with the bread. Sanctification rituals with the Levitical priesthood. All right. In a manner common, yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. Verse 6. So the priest gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there but the showbread that was taken from before the Lord, to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. Right, so it is old. Verse 7. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg, an Edomite, the chiefest of the herdmen that belonged to Saul. Right, so here's this Edomite servant of Saul. And David said unto Ahimelech, And is there not here under thy hand spear or sword? For I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. Right, so he said, I left my weapons. And the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom thou slewest in the valley of Elah. Behold, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If thou wilt take that, take it. For there is no other save that here. And David said, There is none like that. Give it me. Right? Because it's a huge sword, right? Goliath was a huge man. But remember that Doeg the Edomite. He comes back later. And David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and went to Achish, the king of Gath. Right? And Gath, I know, is going to be on this map. It's down here. It's a city that belonged to the Philistines. And again, it seems about every week, especially during this time period that we're covering here in this history. This valley right here was disputed territory between the Philistines over here on this coast and the Judites, which is obviously all this territory right here. All right, let's go back. So David fled to Gath. One more look for Nob, because if he went to Gath, then Nob might be in this general region in Judah, around Beth Shemesh. But I'm not seeing it. Anyway, he's going to Gath now. And the servants of Achish said unto him, Is not this David the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying Saul had slain his thousands and David his 10,000s? Right, so they're saying, oh, David's king, because they heard his reputation. But David was not even king yet. He was just a mighty warrior. And David laid up these words in his heart, and was sore afraid of Achish the king of Gath. And he changed his behavior before them, and feigned himself mad in their hands, and scribbled on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard. Right, so he acted mentally ill. He acted crazy. Then said Achish unto his servants, Lo, ye see the man is mad. Wherefore then have ye brought him to me? Right? So he said, Why are y'all bringing this mentally ill guy to me? Have I need of madmen, that ye have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? Right? So he's like, get rid of this guy. I don't know why you're bringing him to me. So here, picking up with the next chapter, 22 and verse 1. David therefore departed thence, and escaped to the cave Adullam. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thither to him. Right, so don't necessarily know where Adullam is, where that cave is. Let's go back. Well, it says and Mizpeh, not in Mizpeh. Since Adullam is a cave, it's not going to show it on the city map, because it would be even smaller than a city. Probably in this general region, though, if I had to guess. Let's go back. Verse 2. And everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented gathered themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them. And there were with him about 400 men, right? So these are like your misfits, right? Outcasts in society. They come to David, because they know that David would judge their case righteously, and not look upon them based on their appearance, but see them as they truly were, and judge in righteousness. And David went thence to Mizpeh of Moab, and he said unto the king of Moab, Let my father and my mother, I pray thee, come forth and be with you, till I know that God will do for me, till I know what God will do for me. And he brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the hold. And the prophet Gad said unto David, Abide not in the hold, depart and get thee into the land of Judah. Then David departed and came into the forest of Horeth. Right, so let's see if we see Mizpeh in Moab. No, but here's the land of Moab down here. So all he really had to do was cross the Dead Sea to get there. All right, and then the prophet Gad told him, "Hey, get back to Judah. Get back to this whole region." Into the forest of Horeth. I don't think Horeth is on there either. Let's see. I'm not seeing Horeth anywhere. Nope. If you didn't see Moab before, there it is. I don't know if my camera was blocking it or not. But anyway. Yeah, not seeing Horeth. Though it is the forest land, so it might be over here in the eastern side. Let's see. Let's continue. Verse 6 in 1 Samuel 22. When Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men that were with him, now Saul abode in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. Right, and Ramah, we've seen that on here. Ramah is right here. That's where Saul established his capital. Verse 7. Then Saul said unto his servants and stood about him, Hear now, ye Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, that all of you have conspired against me, and there is none that showeth me that my son hath made a league with the son of Jesse, and there is none of you that is sorry for me, or showeth unto me that my son has stirred up my servant against me, to lie in wait as at this day. So now Saul's getting very paranoid. All right, he said, everybody's against me. Some real Middle Ages type, Game of Thrones type stuff going on here. The Mad King, right? Becoming paranoid. Verse 9. Then answered Doeg the Edomite, which was set over the servants of Saul, and said, I saw the son of Jesse come into Nob, or Nob, to Ahimelech the son of Ahitub. And he inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Right. So here comes Doeg snitching on Ahimelech, when Ahimelech didn't even know what was going on. Verse 11. Then the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priests that were in Nob. And they came, all of them, to the king. And Saul said, Hear now, thou son of Ahitub. And he answered, Here I am, my lord. And Saul said unto him, Why have ye conspired against me, thou and the son of Jesse, and that thou have given him bread and a sword, and hast inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me to lie in wait, as at this day? So here comes Saul with the accusations. Verse 14. Then Ahimelech answered the king and said, And who is so faithful among all thy servants as David, which is the king's son-in-law, and goeth at thy bidding, and is honorable in thy house? Right, so Ahimelech said, I didn't know David did anything wrong. What has he done? Right? Did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Be it far from me. Let not the king impute anything unto his servant, nor to all the house of my father. For thy servant knew nothing of all this, less or more. Right? He said, I don't know what y'all got going on. Verse 16. And the king said, Thou shalt surely die, Ahimelech, thou and all thy father's house. And the king said unto the footman that stood about him, Turn and slay the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled, and did not show it to me. But the servants of the king would not put forth their hand to fall upon the priests of the Lord, right? Because that's madness. That's insane. You're asking your men to kill the men of God, to kill the priests of God. Of course they don't want to do that. If they're true followers of the Lord, if they're true men of God, they don't want to kill these other men of God. That's ridiculous. That's foolish. All right. Verse 18. And the king said to Doeg, Turn thou and fall upon the priest. And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell upon the priest, and slew on that day 85 persons that did wear a linen ephod. But of course this wicked Edomite will do it. He'll kill the priest of God. He doesn't care, right? And no, the city of the priests smote he with the edge of the sword, both men and women, children and sucklings, oxen and asses, and sheep with the edge of the sword, right? So that he killed 85 people. That's 85. Score is 20, right? So 85 people he killed that day with, all their cattle and things like that. Verse 20. And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar showed David that Saul had slain the Lord's priest. And David said unto Abiathar, I knew it that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of thy father's house. Abide thou with me, fear not, for he that seeketh my life seeketh thy life. But with me thou shalt be in safeguard. Right? So David said, it's my fault, stay with me and I'll protect you. Right? He told that to Abiathar. All right, next chapter, 1 Samuel, 23rd chapter, 1 Samuel, 23rd chapter, verse 1. Then they told David, saying, Behold, the Philistines fight against Keilah, and they rob the threshing floors. I don't think Keilah's going to be on this map either. I think that's another small town in this region, most likely, in that valley. That's usually what the Philistines and the Judites fight over. When the Philistines come to take land, it's usually in this valley. Yeah, I'm not seeing Keilah anywhere, unfortunately. I know it doesn't seem like it tonight, but this map does have the most cities. But it's still, some of these smaller towns still ain't on there. All right. Verse 2. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go and smite these Philistines? And the Lord said unto David, go and smite the Philistines and save Keilah. And David's men said unto him, behold, we be afraid here in Judah. How much more then if we come to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? Right, so he said, we're already hiding from Saul. Right, what chance do we have against the Philistines? Verse 4. Then David inquired of the Lord yet again. And the Lord answered him and said, arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into thy hand. So David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines and brought away their cattle and smote them with a great slaughter. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. Verse 6. And remember, a couple chapters back, we read that David had 400 men, right? This Philistine army is probably thousands. Because it doesn't matter how many the Lord chooses. To the Lord belongs the battle, right? It doesn't matter about men or chariots or horses or weapons that you got. The Lord, the battle belongs to the Lord, I should say. Verse 6. And it came to pass, when Abiathar the son of Ahimelech fled to David to Keilah, that he came down with the ephod in his hand. Verse 7. And it was told Saul that David was come to Keilah. And Saul said, God hath delivered him into my hand, for he is shut in, by entering into a town that hath gates and bars. Saul called all the people together to war, to go down to Keilah, to besiege David and his men. Right, so Saul was willing to overthrow one of his own cities, just to get David up out of there. And David knew that Saul secretly practiced mischief against him, and he said to Abiathar the priest, bring hither the ephod. Right, ephod is a particular type of garment. You read about that in later parts of Exodus, whenever all that's being made. Then said David, O Lord God of Israel, thy servant hath certainly heard that Saul seeketh to come to Keilah, to destroy the city for my sake. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? Will Saul come down, as thy servant hath heard? O Lord God of Israel, I beseech thee, tell thy servant. And the Lord said, he will come down. Then said David, will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, they will deliver thee up. Right, so David's asking these questions of the Lord, saying, what actions do I need to take? Can I stay in the city, or will they deliver me to Saul whenever he comes down? Then David and his men, which were about 600, okay, so now they've risen up to about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah, and went whithersoever they could go. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbore to go forth, right? So once David got the answer that, oh, these people are willing to give me up, I need to get out of this town. Similar to when Christ would tell the disciples, if a city doesn't accept you, hey, wipe the dust off your feet and keep moving, right? I'm paraphrasing a bit. Verse 14. And David abode in the wilderness in strongholds, and remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God delivered him not into his hand, right? Every day, Saul is looking for David, but every time he escapes him, right? I don't think it'll show the wilderness of Ziph on here, but I think it's down in the far south down here, around the land of Simeon. I believe that's where it's at. Could be wrong. Verse 15. And David saw that Saul was come out to seek his life, and David was in the wilderness of Ziph in a wood, right in the woods. And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David into the wood and strengthened his hand in God, right? Encouraged him. And he said unto him, fear not, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find thee, and thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next unto thee, and that also Saul my father knoweth, right? So Jonathan is willing to give up his kingdom, right? Because he would be the heir to the throne under Saul. But Jonathan is willing to give up his kingdom so that David can live. And Jonathan already knows that David's going to be king because Jonathan is a man of God, right? And that's been it's already been established by Samuel, really, anointing him as king. It's just a matter of time at this point. It's not if, it's when. All right. Verse 18. And they two made a covenant before the Lord, and David abode in the wood, and Jonathan went to his house. Verse 19. Then came up the Ziphites to Saul to Gibeah, saying, Doth not David hide himself with us in strongholds in the wood, in the hill of Hakilah, which is on the south of Jeshimon? Jeshimon might be on here, maybe not, but it might be. Still not seeing it, unfortunately. I feel like I know that it's down in here somewhere in that region. But unfortunately, I'm not really seeing it. Not seeing Jeshimon. All right. Let's get back at it. On the south of Jeshimon, verse 20. Now therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand. Verse 21. And Saul said, Blessed be ye of the Lord, for ye have compassion on me. Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know and see his place where his haunt is, and who hath seen him there. For it is told me that he dealeth very subtly. Right? Because David was moving very wisely. He was moving in the spirit. Verse 23. See therefore, and take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hideth himself, and come ye again to me with the certainty, and I will go with you. And it shall come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. Right? So Saul said, I'll scour the land looking for him. Verse 24. And they arose and went to Ziph before Saul, but David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the plain on the south of Jeshimon. Right? So they had already moved before they even got there looking for him. Saul also and his men went to seek him, and they told David. Wherefore he came down into a rock and abode in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Maon. Saul went on this side of the mountain, David and his men on that side of the mountain. And David made haste to get away for fear of Saul. For Saul and his men compassed David and his men round about to take them. But there came a messenger unto Saul, saying, Haste thee and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land. Wherefore Saul returned from pursuing after David and went against the Philistines. Therefore they called the place, this is a long name, Selah Amalukoth. Selah Amalukoth, right? I believe that's called the pursuing, or something along those lines, pursuing through the straits, something like that. Verse 29. And David went up from thence and dwelt in strongholds at En-Gedi, right? En-Gedi, I know En-Gedi's on the map right here, right there on the seacoast. So yeah, let's continue. Let's continue. So here we still see Saul chasing David all around. The only thing that brought Saul away was the Philistines invading on the other side. Actually, let's take a look right here, because Philistines invading would be on this side, right? On this, through the valley, right? And Saul's over here chasing David around through this general area right here. So he's distracting himself from his kingly duties. He's supposed to be protecting the land, not going on these, his own search missions, right? His own execution side quest, basically. He's losing it. All right, let's continue. 1 Samuel 24, I'm going to start with verse 1. And it came to pass when Saul was returned from following the Philistines that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. 3,000 men. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way where was a cave. And Saul went in to cover his feet. And David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. Right, so they're hiding in the cave. Saul got his men on in the cave. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily, right, the bottom of it, the part where the fringe hang. So the men of David are sitting there and telling, hey, here's your shot, here's your opportunity. Take him out now, you'll be king. All right, but David's moving in the spirit. He said, no, I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to show him that I could have killed him. And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him because he had cut off Saul's skirt. And he said unto his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth my hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. Right, so David, it said last week, we went through it last week, where it said in one of the chapters, it said that David loved Saul, right? And that's true. David knew that even though Saul has gone off, even though Saul has become wicked, he's still the anointed of the Lord. All right, so he said, I'm not going to kill him. God forbid that I should kill the anointed of the Lord. Verse 8. David also arose afterward and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, My Lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself. And David said to Saul, Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeketh thy hurt. Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how the Lord hath delivered thee today into my hand in the cave. And some bade me to kill thee, but mine eyes spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of thy robe in my hand. For in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and killed thee not. Know thou and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in my hand, and I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take it. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but my hand shall not be upon thee. Right? So he said, let God judge you, but I'm not going to seek my own vengeance. Right? That's another way of phrasing it. As saith the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but my hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog, after a flea. He's like, look, I'm nothing. I ain't nothing. I ain't no threat to you. I'm a dead dog. I'm a flea. Why are you chasing me like this, right? The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thy hand. All right, as we've seen, that's what continuously happens. Saul is going after David, and then the Lord delivers David out of the hand of Saul. All right. Verse 16, and it came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. So now he's cut to the core, right? Because David just rebuked him, and he knows that David's telling the truth. He knows that he's right, that Saul is the one in wickedness here, and Saul is the one seeking after David. David has done no harm, no kind of fault towards Saul. And he said to David, Thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed this day that thou hast dealt well with me. I got tongue twisted there, but he said, You've only done good to me. For as much as when the Lord had delivered me into thy hand, thou couldst me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord will reward thee good, for that thou hast done unto me this day. And now, behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Swear now, therefore, unto me by the Lord, that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David swore unto Saul, and Saul went home. But David and his men gat them up unto the hold. All right, so Saul, his soul is convicted within him. He says, "Look, I can tell that you've only done good to me, and I know that you will be king one day. All right, and I know that the kingdom of Israel will be in your hand and your lineage. Just don't kill my family. Don't kill my kids. Don't wipe out my lineage." Right? And David agreed. They made that covenant. They made that oath that David would not wipe out Saul's sons, basically. So the name can keep going, can keep generating. This is moving awfully slow. OBS seems to be all right though. What are we looking like? Yeah, I figured it was something like that. Come on now. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Yeah. Yeah, it's looking like that. Nope, sure can't, can it? What are we looking like here? Not bad over here on this side. There we go. We're back. All praise to the Most High. All right. So, I think we'll read the next couple chapters, and then we'll call it. Because I want to get to the next time, because there's always a next time when it comes to this Saul and David situation. Yeah, and here we go with the foolishness again. All right, like I said, please forgive me for the technical difficulties. Lord's will, we'll be back up and running shortly. Well, it might be good, it might not. I'm not liking how that's taking too long. Yes. Yeah, we'll probably just read the next couple of chapters, and then we'll call it an evening. 1 Samuel 25, starting with verse 1. Let's see. Well, we're gonna stick to this Wi-Fi as long as it works, I suppose. Let's yeah, that's fine. Okay. 1 Samuel 25. Start with verse 1. And Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together and lamented him, and buried him in his house at Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. I won't say the wilderness of Paran is the same as the wilderness that all the Israelites went through during the days of Moses, which that would be down that way. All right. Starting with verse 2. And there was a man in Maon whose possessions were in Carmel, and the man was very great, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. All right, so we read about the wilderness of Maon a couple chapters ago. It would appear the wilderness of Maon is around in this general vicinity, around En-Gedi, right? Because Saul had chased David from Maon to En-Gedi. So, but Carmel is all the way up in here. That's Mount Carmel. All right, so you're talking about a man who lives down here in Judah, but then most of his stuff is up here. So this is a very wealthy guy, right? As you can see, the man was very great. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil in his doings, right? Rude. Oh, that's what churlish means, rude, and as it said, evil. And he was of the house of Caleb, right? So that Judite that we read about a while ago when we were reading about Joshua and the Judges. And David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear his sheep. And David sent out 10 young men. And David said unto the young men, get you up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name. And thus shall ye say to him that liveth in prosperity, peace be both to thee, and peace be to thine house, and peace be unto all that thou hast, right? Shalom to you, shalom to your family, shalom in every way. And now I have heard that thou hast shearers. Now thy shepherds which were with us, we hurt them not, neither was there aught missing unto them all the while they were in Carmel. He's like, look, we protected your men, we protected your property, now take care of us. Ask thy young men, and they will show thee. Wherefore let the young men find favor in thine eyes, for we come in a good day. Give, I pray thee, whatsoever cometh to thy hand unto thy servants, and to thy son David. Right? So it's not even a situation where he said, I want this, this, and this. He said, whatever you can do to help us out, please help us out, because we need your help. And when David's young men came, they spake to Nabal according to all those words in the name of David, and ceased. And Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David, and who is the son of Jesse? There be many servants nowadays that break away every man from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my flesh that I have killed for my shearers, and give it unto men whom I know not whence they be? He's like, so what, you David? You this, you that? I don't care about you, nor your men. I ain't giving you nothing, right? Very rude, very churlish and evil, as it said earlier. So David's young men turned their way and went again, and came and told him all those sayings. And David said unto his men, gird ye on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword, and David also girded on his sword. And there went up after David about 400 men, and 200 abode by the stuff. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he railed on them, right? So David, after he hears word of what Nabal said, he said, all right, get the weapons, let's go, let's take him out, and just take the stuff. But obviously, somebody else who heard what was going on ran and told the woman of the house, right? This woman of understanding, and told her the situation. Verse 15. But the men were very good unto us, and we were not hurt, neither missed we anything, as long as we were conversing with them when we were in the fields, right? So this servant of Nabal come to Abigail, is like, look, they did us no harm. We should be doing good by them. They were a wall unto us both night and day. All the while we were with them keeping the sheep. Now therefore know and consider what thou wilt do, for evil is determined against our master and against all his household, for he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him, right? So even the servant's like, man, he's such the devil. He's such a devil that nobody can even talk to him, really. You can't reason with him. You can't sit here and tell Nabal that they're coming for us now that you don't make an enemy out of David and his men. Nobody can give that kind of counsel to Nabal because he's so foolish and churlish and evil, right? But Abigail understands that. She understands that it's better to be on David and his men's side than to be their enemy, because they will take you out. All right? Verse 18. Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 bottles of wine, and 5 sheep ready dressed, and 5 measures of parched corn, and 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and laid them on asses, right? So she come loaded up, right? Gift baskets. And she said unto her servants, Go on before me. Behold, I come after you. But she told not her husband Nabal, right? And that was wise on her part, because Nabal is a fool. And it was so, as she rode on the ass, that she came down by the covert of the hill. And behold, David and his men came down against her, and she met them. Now David had said, Surely in vain have I kept all that this fellow hath in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him, and he hath requited me evil for good. Right? So David's sitting here thinking, as he's on his way to Nabal, he's like, man, I should have never protected you and your men. Verse 22. So and more also do God unto the enemies of David, if I leave of all that pertain to him by the morning light any that pisses against the wall. Right? So David is going to wipe out all the men that he sees on Nabal's property, whether it be servants, Nabal's sons, Nabal himself, it doesn't matter. He's I'm wiping them all out. Verse 23. And when Abigail saw David, she hasted and lighted off the ass, and fell before David on her face, and bowed herself to the ground, and fell at his feet, and said, Upon me, my Lord, upon me let this iniquity be. And let thy handmaid, I pray thee, speak in thine audience, and hear the words of this thy handmaid. Let not, my Lord, I pray thee, regard this man of Belial, even Nabal. For as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. Right? So that's what Nabal means, folly, or foolish, or a fool. But I, thy handmaid, saw not the young men of my Lord, whom thou didst send. Right? So you gotta put yourself in David's shoes, right? He's in attack mode. He's in battle mode. And then here comes this beautiful woman with all these gifts saying, please don't hurt him. Please, if you're going to do anything, do it to me. All right. She said, I didn't know. You should have come to me, right? Verse 26. Now therefore, my Lord, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, seeing the Lord hath withholden thee from coming to shed blood, and from avenging thyself with thy own hand, now let thine enemies and they that seek evil to my Lord be as Nabal. And now this blessing which thy handmaid hath brought unto my Lord, let it even be given unto the young men that follow my Lord. I pray thee, forgive the trespass of thy handmaid, but the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house. Because my Lord fighteth the battles of the Lord, and evil hath not been found in thee all thy days. Right? So she's, honoring David. She said, look, I recognize you're a righteous man. I know the Lord's going to establish you in your house. Just please don't kill my foolish husband. Yet a man is risen to pursue thee and to seek thy soul. But the soul of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of life with the Lord thy God. And the souls of thine enemies, them shall he sling out, as out of the middle of a sling. Right? She even made reference to him killing Goliath. She made reference to how Saul is killing it, or trying to kill him unjustly, I should say, chasing him unjustly. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord shall have done to my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning thee, and shall have appointed thee ruler over Israel, that this shall be no grief unto thee, nor offense of the heart unto my Lord. Either that thou hast shed blood causeless, or that my Lord hath avenged himself. But when the Lord shall have dealt well with my Lord, then remember thy handmaid. Right? So she's saying, look, you don't want to do this, whether it be you're shedding blood without a cause or unjustly, or you're what's the word I'm looking for? You're righteous in doing this. You are justified in doing this, regardless. Don't do it. And when you're in a position of power, when the Lord has established you, when you're well off, then remember me. Verse 32. And David said to Abigail, Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, which sent thee this day to meet me. And blessed be thy advice, and blessed be thou, which hast kept me this day from coming to shed blood, and from avenging myself with my own hand. For in very deed, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, which hath kept me back from hurting thee, except thou hast hasted and come to meet me, surely there had not been left unto Nabal by the morning light any that pisseth against the wall. Right? So, women, take note. Right? Abigail, if you want to convince a man of something, stop a man from doing something, come with gifts. Come with smooth words, not hard words, right? Because imagine if Abigail run up on David like, you don't do this, don't do this to my man, all this kind of stuff. She would have been gone too, right? But she come up, gracious, seeking peace, right? Coming in humility, right? And she got what she wanted as far as she stopped David from doing this. Verse 35. So David received of her hand that which she had brought him, and said unto her, go up in peace to thy house. See, I have hearkened to thy voice, and have accepted thy person. Verse 36. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he held a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunken, very drunk. Wherefore she told him nothing, less or more, until the morning light, right? So she waited till he sobered up. Let me make sure it's still going. Yeah, it seems like it's going all right. At least that part. Maybe. Anyway, he was very drunk. She waited till the morning light to tell him about the situation. But it came to pass in the morning, when the wine was gone out of Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became as a stone. And it came to pass about 10 days after that the Lord smote Nabal, that he died, right? So she told him, David was about to come up here and kill you and kill everything that you got and just take everything. And that, that really struck a nerve with him, I should say. And then 10 days later, heart attack, stroke, whatever it was, he died. The Lord killed him. Verse 39. And when David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, blessed be the Lord, that have pleaded the cause of my reproach from the hand of Nabal, and hath kept his servant from evil, right? So you really got to be some evil, wicked man for people to be saying, oh, he died? Praise the Lord, right? That's how evil Nabal was. For the Lord hath returned the wickedness of Nabal upon his own head. And David sent and communed with Abigail to take her to him to wife. And when the servants of David were come to Abigail to Carmel, they spake unto her, saying, David sent us unto thee to take thee to him to wife. And she arose and bowed herself on her face to the earth, and said, Behold, let thy handmaid be a servant to wash the feet of the servants of my Lord. So she's still being humble, right? Still with humility. And Abigail hasted and arose and rode upon an ass with 5 damsels of hers that went after her. And she went after the messengers of David and became his wife, right? So not only did his sister Abigail get what she wanted previously as far as stopping David from killing her husband, right? Keeping peace upon all of whether it be her friends, her servants, whatever, right? She also got to marry the righteous man in the end, right? Verse 43. David also took Ahinoam of Jezreel, and they were also both of them his wives. But Saul had given Michal, his daughter, David's wife, to Phalti, the son of Laish, which was of Galim, right? So there's another little slight from Saul to David. Took his what was already David's wife and give her to another man. All right. So it's 1 Samuel 26. I do want to stop with this chapter. I want to read it because, as you can see the title, David again spares Saul. It's going with the theme that we saw in 1 Samuel 24. All right, starting with 1. And the Ziphites came unto Saul to Gibeah, saying, Doth not David hide himself in the hill of Hachilah, which is before Jeshimon? All right, so David's back down there. Then Saul arose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him, to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul pitched in the hill of Hachilah, which is before Jeshimon, by the way, but David abode in the wilderness. And he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. David therefore sent out spies, and understood that Saul was come in very deed. And David arose and came to the place where Saul had pitched. And David beheld the place where Saul lay, and Abner, the son of Ner, the captain of his host. And Saul lay in a trench, and the people pitched round about him. Then answered David to Ahimelech the Hittite, and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, brother to Joab, saying, Who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with thee. So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the ground at his bolster. But Abner and the people lay round about him. Then said Abishai to David, God hath delivered thine enemy into thy hand this day. Now therefore let me smite him, I pray thee, with the spear, even to the earth at once. And I will not smite him the second time. Right? So Abishai, who came down, the brother of Joab, who we haven't really gotten to Joab yet, but he comes into importance later. So Abishai came down with David, and he said, look, I know that you don't want to kill Saul. Let me do it. Let me kill him. He's right here. It'd be so easy, right? And he said, I will not smite him the second time, saying, I'll kill him this first time, right? And it's going to take one blow. It'd be super easy. Verse 9, and David said to Abishai, destroy him not, for who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? He said right there. So David is like, you ain't moving in the spirit. The reason why I ain't killed him yet is because he is the anointed of the Lord. All right? God will hold you accountable. I know that Saul's went off, right? But still, God will hold you accountable if you kill his anointed. Verse 10. David said furthermore, as the Lord liveth, the Lord shall smite him, or his day shall come to die, or he shall descend into battle and perish, right? So David's like, look, anything can happen to him, but I'm not going to kill him. Y'all not going to kill him. The Lord forbid that I should stretch forth my hand against the Lord's anointed. But I pray thee, take down now the spear that is at his bolster and the cruse of water, and let us go, right? So he said, let him know that we were here by taking the spear and taking the water. So David took the spear and the cruse of water from Saul's bolster, and they gat them away. And no man saw it, nor knew it, neither awaked, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord was fallen upon them, right? So the Lord made that possible. Because normally, somebody moving around you, you might wake up or whatever, but this thing is of the Lord. Then David went over to the other side and stood on the top of a hill afar off, a great space between them. And David cried to the people and to Abner the son of Ner, saying, answerest thou not, Abner? Then Abner answered and said, who art thou that criest to the king? And David said to Abner, art not thou a valiant man? And who is like to thee in Israel? Wherefore then hast thou not kept thy lord the king? For there came one of the people in to destroy the king thy lord. Right? So David cries out to, you might say, like the Secret Service, right? So this is Abner is like the Secret Service, right? It's supposed to be protecting the king, protecting the president, whatever. It's supposed to be the main guy who's all his duty, his sole responsibility is to protect the king from invaders, right? And David's sitting here saying, why ain't you protecting the king? Somebody came up and was trying to kill him, right? This thing is not good that thou hast done. As the Lord liveth, ye are worthy to die, because ye have not kept your master, the Lord's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is, and the cruse of water that was at his bolster. He's like, look, where is the spear? And where is the canteen? Where's your water bottle? Where's the spear? Where's the weapon? You don't let somebody come up, take the king's weapon, take his water bottle? And Saul knew David's voice and said, is this thy voice, my son David? And David said, it is my voice, my lord, O king. Right, so Saul recognized David's voice because last time he was screaming like this. He was like, is that David? All right. Verse 18, and he said, wherefore doth my lord thus pursue after his servant? For what have I done? Or what evil is in my hand? Now therefore I pray thee, let my lord the king hear the words of his servant. If the Lord hath stirred thee up against me, let him accept an offering. But if they be the children of men, cursed be they before the Lord. For they have driven me out this day from abiding in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, go serve other gods. Now therefore let not my blood fall to the earth before the face of the Lord. For the king of Israel is come out to seek a flea, as when one doth hunt a partridge in the mountains. He's like, look, I ain't nothing. Why are you hunting after me? What evil have I done? All right, you've called me to run around to these other nations when I ain't nothing. Verse 21, then said Saul, I have sinned. Return, my son David, for I will no more do thee harm, because my soul was precious in thine eyes this day. Behold, I have played the fool, and have erred exceedingly. And David answered and said, behold, the king's spear, and let one of the young men come over and fetch it. The Lord render to every man his righteousness and his faithfulness. For the Lord delivered thee into my hand today, but I would not stretch forth my hand against the Lord's anointed. And behold, as thy life was much set by this day in mine eyes, so let my life be much set by in the eyes of the Lord, and let him deliver me out of all tribulation. And Saul said to David, Blessed be thou, my son David. Thou shalt both do great things, and also shalt still prevail. Right? So they've already had basically this similar conversation earlier. And Saul's saying, look, you're going to do great things, and you're still going to do everything that I said you was going to do, as far as you're still going to be king. You're still going to prevail. All right. So David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. Right. So at this point, as it says right here, I will no more do thee harm. That's why I wanted to get to this place. It's a good stopping place. We haven't fully transitioned the kingdom from Saul to David yet, but we're getting there. And Saul is no longer chasing after David. He's like, look, I ain't got no reason to kill you. All right, so I'm not going to try to anymore. So with that, hope y'all learned something. It'll probably be the final part to this section as far as the transition. Next week, Lord's will, we make it to it, right? All praise to the Most High for all things, always. And with that, I say shalom. Most High in Christ bless.